Well folks, welcome back to the workshop and to another tool video. I'm not going to say a tool repair video for this one because I don't know how it's going to go. This here could be a complete waste of time, but I'm going to do a wee video on it just to see how it goes. This has just landed in for repair. A big Makita hammer. A HR5212C. Big expensive Makita hammer. But the customer says it's not working right, and by the looks of it, she's looking too clean. I have my suspicions about this here machine. Don't know if it's going to be worth fixing or not. I think this thing could just be a dud. So I'm going to do a wee video on just to see how it goes. She's too clean basically. Wide clean looking machine. Somebody's wanting a lot of bother to tidy this thing up. And I would say this is just a second hand machine that's been sold to somebody. I'm guessing just a dud basically. It's been cleaned, washed, buffed up. Even the plastic look. It's all been buffed and cleaned around here. You can see where it's actually scored. And see the line where it changes. That's where it used to look like. Somebody's buffed all this here up to clean it. They buffed it, washed it, and even polished the metal. Look. Shined this up to make it look as good as possible. And then they've even lacquered it. There's a clear lacquer put over the top of this or something to make it look even shinier. Basically, they do that there to make it look better than what it is. So either this is just a polished up piece of crap, turd, or it's a stolen machine, because you only generally do this here to get names and that off, so this could also be stolen. I would say it's just second hand, mind you, and somebody just cleaned it up. But we're going to see what we can do with it, see if it's worth fixing for a start. They say it's not drilling or hammering, so we're going to see what we can do. The lead for a start ain't looking the best. That'll have to be replaced. Not looking the safest, but we'll see what she's doing here. So we got power, that's the main thing. So the lead is actually doing something, which is not switching on. Right, problem there for a start. When you put it down here to hammer mode, it should just work on the switch. You should be able to just switch it on and leave it running. When you put it to drill mode, hammer and drill, you should be just working off the trigger. But it's not doing that, so straight away there's something up in here gone. The connector for hooking on to the trigger back here is faulty, it's not doing anything. But she does still run. In drill mode, she's not doing anything, she's not spinning. So I would suspect this isn't working at all. Nothing. Right, major problems with this thing. She also sounds a little bit rough. Don't know if she's just running so free that the gears might have stripped out or the armature might have snapped, but there's definitely something going on in here. Yeah, don't know what that is. We'll get under right now and see. But like I say, this might be a waste of time video, but we have to open it and look to find out. So apologies if this ain't going to be fixed, but I just don't know yet if it's going to be. See the difference there now, look. It was lacquered or something. There's screws missing here too. How was that even wrong? Bit of a bodge job done on it. Somebody took off the wee connector. I must have had it plugged in some way. But there's meant to be something up here connecting this. meant to be a bar in this as well, going back and forth to engage this here switch here. So whenever you put it in the drill mode, it pulls back this lever so it's switched on, so you can use the trigger. That's obviously missing. Let's not overcomplicate this if we don't need to. Main thing is, see, that's been opened already. Main thing is the gear and the armature stripped out. Yeah, somebody has been on this. Somebody knows rightly what's wrong. There's even a screw missing. Here's what's wrong. The crank is actually broken off. So a sheared off crank. We don't know if the piston's still good or not. There's the piston there. So obviously leading the service. Was moving down that free. Right. So this here eccentric gear or crank. It's a pin coming up to hook onto the piston. And that's going down into the gearbox then onto the gears. So it's one piece. It's not all that expensive for the size of this machine. It'd be worth fixing that. Sticking because of the lacquer. Right, armature's not too badly worn. You always get the clicking noise when you go the opposite way from what it's meant to be spinning. But it's turning. And it turns the crank, so everything else is connected up. And it's turning quite free as well. Doesn't seem gritty or rough or anything. Doesn't seem like there's any bad gears. This might be worth fixing up. Everything else seems okay, apart from just a few little missing pieces. And this here little bit of wiring, but that's easily fixed. Right, I'll ring the customer. Price this first, and I'll ring the customer and see if he wants to fix it. So let's face it, if he's just out there buying it from somebody and he's paying a couple of €100, he might want to pay any extra to get it fixed. Alright, I'll have a wee quick run through on this. So they're big machines and they're fairly complicated, but they're not all that bad. This is the bit we need here. This is the actual crank. So all this should be okay, it's just this that's broken off. The bearing should be alright and the gears should be okay. Clutch and all should be alright. The motor should be good. We'll know whenever we open up fully, but I would say them gears should be alright. Now I know the brushes are alright as well. So what else do I need? There's a lever up here going onto the handle. We'll also need that, wherever the hell it is. But this part here, 104, this is the main bit. A steel crank for a machine. Main component inside. How much is it? £16. Not expensive at all. It's be well worth putting that on. Let's see, I'll put on another couple of O-rings in that as well. And seals maybe. Will not be too expensive. There's a part here we need. This here arm. There's a little spring and a catch as well on it. But again, not expensive. Part number 70. €3. There are £3 sterling for that. Well worth putting that on. Right. Let's say we should go ahead of this, or I'd say the boy will want it fixed. By the time I put that crank in, a few O-rings, a bit of grease, and that lever, probably look at maybe at most just over €100 for this. So it'll be well worth it for this size of machine. To actually buy one of these machines, this particular Makita model, you'd be looking at over €1,000. I think about €1,200 for this particular machine. So €100 fix it isn't all that much. So I'll give the customer a ring. I'd say he will go ahead of this. Okay, it's a go. Customer wants it fixed. And as well, it ain't stolen. It isn't bought second hand. It's actually of an auction. So over here in Ireland you would get different auction jobs, machine auction lots. People go put their machines on for sale. Still could be stolen, but I wouldn't say it is. Look through the box and look through the machine. There's no scoring or other marks to say there's a name written on it or anything. So say this is just a machine left onto an auction for sale. Happens all the time. Normally I wouldn't recommend you going to an auction, especially here, to buy stuff. What happens is you buy the machine, you take it home, you realise it's broken, you take it into somebody like me to fix it. We give you a price, they don't want to fix it. I see it all the time. Job lots of machines coming on from auctions and they're not worth fixing. I give it back to the customer, say it's not worth fixing, and they simply say that's okay, I'll just put it back into the auction again. So that's what happens. Buy at auction, goes to the customer, they pay their bill, not worth fixing, they put it back into the auction again and somebody else buys it. It just keeps going round and round in circles. Forget about auctions, they're not always worth it. You do get lucky sometimes, but a lot of the time they're just not worth it. This man's getting out handy enough. So it's an auction machine, it is worth fixing, so we're going to fix it up. I'm going to have to order these parts in. I don't have them in stock, so we'll have to finish this video another day. Also, this isn't the only thing he bought. He actually bought 4 machines. This big one and 3 other small Makita ones, SDS Plus I think they are. So I'll do a separate video on them there. There'll be 3 auction machines been fixed up as well, so I'll see if they can be fixed as well as this thing. But we'll get this one up and running first. So order these parts in, and then we'll get her fixed up at another date. We'll probably have to strip the whole thing apart. So it'll be a full stripped down job on this thing. Actually, that might not be the wisest thing to do. It is an auction machine, so I don't know what else is going to be wrong with it, or what else is going to be missing. Safest option would be to just actually strip it apart now. It is going to need a service, or at least them O-rings changed, so I'm going to have to change them anyway. And clean out this here. Oh yeah, no, I will just strip it down now. Sometimes you just like to put it on the long finger and leave it till later. But it's not always a good idea. It's a regular customer and you're familiar with the machine, fair enough. When it's an auction one, you just don't know what could be inside. It's better to just strip it now and find anything you need to find. Because if you wait till later and you order the parts and they arrive in, and then you strip it apart, you can sometimes just find more problems, more things to order. You end up wasting a lot of time. Oh, that's tight. That thing is tight. Doesn't help if this isn't locking in. There's the broken bit of the crank there now. That little pin that came out was actually part of here. Hooks on this here, so this has been opened before. Somebody has something removed out of it. A few other bits to pull out here before I yank out this motor. Somebody's actually changed the brushes in this as well. They're brand new. Still have the little lines on it. Everybody always thinks no matter what the problem of the machine, the brushes are going to cure it. Even when the problem is a mechanical thing. Oh no. That's a new brush, but that's broken off. Fitted badly. Surprised that was even running. Somebody should use a pair of pliers or something to push that on. Side cutters and actually cut through the lead. So we'll need a new set of brushes after all. But people always think the first problem's the brushes. Even when the motor's running and it's just not rotating or hammering, they still try the brushes first, because somehow the brushes run the hammer mechanism. Actually plugged in, so just be careful when you're pulling it out. Don't pry in them two wee screw holes too much, because you can snap them off. We'll just take this off as well. No, just this side, I think. No, I'm wrong. Yeah, take the switch module off first, and there's another two screws underneath. Or one screw. Just to get it out of the way. There we go. The field and motor housing gives very little trouble. Just doing a little work, not an awful lot. But the armature still looks good. All the resin binding up in here, look. None of it's broken or cracked off. If it's getting very hot and overworked, or starting to fail and she's overheating, it'll actually crack this here and it'll actually start falling off and breaking off. So check that if you're not sure. That looks okay, so it's the armature should be alright. It is still running anyway. It looks good here, back in the com bar. I'll just do a full strip on this thing. Shouldn't be much wrong on here, but we'll look anyway. We have to go in here to take this crank out anyway. Yeah, gears are still alright. Nothing wrong there. Dry. It's old grease anyway, well used. Starting to get a wee bit gritty too. That fluoride ring needs to be changed as well. That's worn out. It's cracked there. Doesn't seem much, but they're bloody expensive. That wee ring would nearly be the same price as the actual crank. That's the boy there. I wanted to make sure it's still intact. That goes the whole way through, and it's held onto the pin. Use the pin to hook it on here. There's your hammer and your piston. They're just stuck together. Must have been sitting there for a while. Put your hammer O-ring, bone dry. So that'll be damaged now from being too dry. Just have to change that. Hammer pipe. It's just pressed in. Out. It's just 3 O-rings holding it on. It's a tight fit. Hard to get out, but not impossible. Just prise it out. But you You want to check the O-rings, make sure they're not broken. Just wash all this out now and inspect everything. Make sure nothing else is broken. I don't think there's anything holding this in from memory. It's been a while since I worked on one of these. I think they just knock out. Also not going to bother taking out these dampers as well. They're just counterweights and springs with a bit of grease inside them. That's all it is. Half it's actually built into the housing anyway, so shouldn't really need to take it out. What am I looking for? There's another piece missing here. Screw out the pin holding on this lever for moving this here gear. Little pin holding on this here. That hooks onto a wee cradle as well. That actually slides on this. So that's actually been removed, look. That's all missing as well. A wee cradle and a spring in that. Not that they're expensive, only cost a couple of euro each. It's a big, massive, expensive Makita hammer, 1200 euro, but a lot of the parts inside are dirt cheap, including the crank. Right, I think a bit of heat and a tap. Should take this out. That's where I took them out the last time. Plastic. So I heat here. Could heat the whole thing, but it's going to make a lot of smoke. I'll heat here just to get a bit of heat into the aluminium. Because it's in this wee dish shape, it's blowing the excess heat out. It's not blowing it up here toward the plastic to melt these. If I do it here, it's going to melt that plastic. You can also do this with a special Makita tool to grip everything, and a bearing press, and actually press it out this way, or you can use a blowtorch and a hammer. Gentle taps, don't hit it too hard and you'll damage the aluminium. You're only hitting it here and just walking out this here bearing. There's the damage. So pull that off. I'll change that. Well, we'll do it when the part gets here. We don't need to do it now. We'll just wash it out for now. Right, I think I'll be safe enough at that. We'll wash it all out and get it ready for when the parts come in. Need a few other parts, but none of them are too expensive. This should still be fairly cheap to repair. Might be an extra 20 or 30 euro for a few other parts here and a set of brushes as well. But that's about it. Right, I think we'll give this a wee clean out before we start. It's already dirty. Not clean the whole thing, obviously, just the tray. Much better. Right, it's 2 weeks later, the parts are on and it's time to rebuild. I'll see if we can get this thing up and running again. Now this is actually my second attempt at putting this thing back together again. I already last week came in, all the spare parts arrived. I unboxed the whole thing and laid it out nice and neat on the workshop bench here to rebuild it. But then after going through everything to make sure I had everything, I realised I was still a part short. The little spring never came in. So I still didn't have all the parts, so I had to just rebox the whole thing up again and leave it until that came in. Now that's in this week. We can have a second go. But wasn't in the mood to lay everything out neatly again, so I actually just dumped it out on the bench here. I'm not laying it out neatly twice. Right, see if we can get her back together again. There's a lot of parts on this because I've actually ordered a few extra as well. Oil seals and cable glands. I'm not sure if I need everything, but I've just ordered everything that I could need and maybe a few bits extra for stock. This is the main one. This is the crankshaft. That's your part number there. And it's sure as hell inexpensive. €21 plus the VAT. That's not dear for that thing. So that's the main part. We'll get this together. We'll rebuild the motor section and then we'll start working then on the hammer section then. Press these out in the bearing press. This will be on tight. The bigger one will be locked on with 2 keyways, and then the bearing end shouldn't be all that tight. Now, let's go find that little keyway as well. Make sure when you're pressing them off, you only press off this gear and don't try to press off the bearing as well. So if you do that, you're actually just going to catch on the keyways. The bearing shouldn't be all that tight. Knock that out. Get rid of that. There's nothing wrong with that bearing. We can reuse that, no problem. That's a nice made in Japan NTN. Doesn't matter if it goes the full way on or not. It'll get pressed on the bearing press anyway. So this gear is just slack. It's the keyways that lock this on. And it's the top one is tight. It's easy to see which way she goes in it. You still have the teeth mark from the gear underneath. It's the big end here, on the big shoulder on it. It's on first. That's on there. And then press this on top. One crank, ready for work again. Just don't forget the little C-clip. Right, that's that ready. I'm going to get this motor section ready now. Luckily, the bearings of this are all fine. And the oil seal seems okay as well, so I'm not going to bother doing anything with that. I ordered on the oil seal, that's just more for stock. The problem of coming back to these after 2 weeks is just remembering what you've done, and what you have to do, and what you've said. The main thing I need to remember is this thing is out of an auction, and the customer is probably not going to want to spend a massive amount of money. So you have to be very conscious of the price. For him and for you, obviously you don't want to be charging this person too much money if they don't want to spend it. But you also have to look after yourself too, as in don't spend too much money on the machine and then get stuck with it. If it costs too much than what they want to pay, they'll just not come back for it, and you'll be left with a second-hand expensive repair. You just have to judge them as they come on. Luckily this one might be an auction, but the motor's still good, and it's good enough otherwise. And this is a repair we've seen before. So you sort of know what to expect and how much it's roughly going to cost. It's not cheap to fix it, but then it's an expensive machine. So in relation to the price of a new one, it isn't all that expensive. We try to still keep it down as much as possible. Right, that's at that end, ready to go. Right, that the one side. First thing being, the actual motor housing, or the gearbox housing. Get the crank back into this. You just don't forget a little cutout here for the pin, so it has to go in one way. Make sure that is lined up, otherwise it doesn't fit. I'm just going to use a bit of heat. Do this for two reasons. One, to make installation a lot easier. It just drops straight on. And two, it's freezing cold in here. Has been lying in the cold for 2 weeks. The body of it, stone cold. When you use the blowtorch, leaves it nice and toasty for you. Little hand warmer. Great when it's getting cold outside. So that's that installed now. Everything else should be fairly straightforward. Let that cool so it just doesn't drop out. We'll get these here ready. So we need to deal with the striker, bolt, piston and the hammer weight. Now those were things can just start getting very expensive very fast. $3.40 for this here. This is for the striker bolt. This was what goes underneath the flow ride ring. The X ring, I'll have to check up the price, because that's one of the ones I have in stock. Don't have a price on it here. The O-ring for the piston, $7.10 plus the VAT. I've ordered an extra one just for stock. But of course, when I went looking for that, I found a load of these. The O-ring for the hammer is actually different. Most of the time to the same O-ring, but this one is different. That smaller O-ring again is $9.10 plus the VAT. And this here is the flow ride ring for the front of the striker. That is €29 plus the VAT, just for this here. Not cheap. So you can just see, you can keep ordering little bits and the prices can just start shooting up. That's why you only replace these here when they're actually worn through, which this one was, because replacing them can be dear. X-ring first. Now, these are always awkward to fit. There's never anything easy about it, especially in the bigger hammers. Just have to squeeze them on. Just make sure they don't twist as you're putting them in. But that's easy in comparison to this wee awkward boy. The O-ring's fine. That just goes underneath and it props up this. This is a fluoride ring. And you can try all you might to make it easier to fit. There's just no way of doing it. You just have to squeeze it on. It's a hard ring. It's bendy enough, but it's not stretchy. And it has to stretch over this here to clamp down on this O-ring. There's no easy way to put it on. There's no heating or putting it into a liquid to actually make it softer, more pliable. You just have to squeeze it on. When you squeeze it on, you stretch it out, and then when it comes too slack, you have to squeeze it back in to get it to fit into the hammer pipe. You seem like you're breaking it when you're doing this, and when you're paying €29 for it, you really don't want to be doing this. But this is just how you have to get it on. You're better to sacrifice the fingernails than using a screwdriver anyway, just in case you cut it. Just make sure it goes on even and over the top of that O-ring. And it's not, there's wee ridges on either side. Make sure it's not sitting across the O-ring. Make sure the O-ring sitting in the centre. So that's it on. As you can see, there's an edge there now. And that edge is going to interfere down inside of this. Now there is a chamfer to help you put this on. So get this now and just put it into the hammer pipe gently. Because as you can see, when you push it on, this is going to start riding up and trying to come out again because it's now too big. You have to get it squeezed in all the way around. See there, look? See the way you can see the edge? It's trying to come out. Just sort of just push it back in with your fingernails, because you've got grease in there too, and that's also holding it back. Put on pressure, push it in, and then walk it around and push the edge in with your fingernails to get it to go on. Get it in, push it down. Get something to hold on to because it's slippery now. And just move it back and forth a little bit. And that will help seat it down properly. So the next time it just slides in no problem. That's the awkward bit. The most difficult part of rebuilding any hammer is just getting that right. Because if you get it wrong, it's an expensive mistake. Now, with that out of the way, we can rebuild the rest. These are luckily a lot easier. This big O-ring is what's giving the compression. This wee skinny O-ring is only holding on this pin. That's all it's doing. I'll get plenty of grease down in here to make sure she's well lubed up. And the hammer width then, this was actually giving you your energy. No ring on that too. Now, let's see if I can do this right. There's an order in which to put this stuff in, because certain things don't fit if you put the wrong thing in first. Normally the first one is always the piston. Get that on, because you need the wiggle room. Get it to drop on to the con rod. Roll that forward and get it in. I'll just take that back. I just like to pull out the healthy grease for this, because you can just stick the paintbrush in the tub. That's in. Get some of the grease down in here. Get it on that steel ring. We want to get this here bevel gear on. This is what's giving you a rotation. Just make sure that's lubed up beforehand. Drop that on. It's hard to get in, but once it's on then, it turns nice and free. It's actually lined up. Now, this just always catches me. Can I put this on before or after the hammer pipe? So this has to press in. These O-rings have to press in to the housing down in here over the piston, and it's a tight fit. You have to really force it in. I'm pretty sure this has to go on first. So direction on this doesn't matter. That is sitting in there, and then you have your selector lever on top. That's sliding in. This pin comes the whole way through, and this faces back. This cutout faces back into the lever, like so. So that helps hold on this here top plate. So I'll stick this in now. Hopefully, we'll be right. Just get a wee bit of grease on it. We're going to be flooding it with grease anyway. Slide that on. So I can push this plate or steel ring up and down then. Now we'll chance the hammer pipe. Important thing is grease them O-rings now, because they're not sliding in without it. Leave the rest dry so you have something to grip. Just give that a turn. Make sure your piston has gone in. So now you should only be pushing on them 3 O-rings. Drive that in all the way to the bottom. Get a bit of grease in there then. Right. Just lube this stuff up. These don't normally be taken out, so just get a bit of grease on them before they go on. I'm going to put on the striker bolt first, because it's just easier to put it in now than when it's at the bottom of this pipe. That on, and line up your steel pins to hold the tool holder onto the hammer pipe. They're on there, and in this steel ring holds on them pins. Now you don't have to put this tool holder on now, you can put it on afterwards, because it will stick out of the pipe end whenever it's rebuilt. slide that down to there. That holds on this here ring. Now before we fit that, we need to get this ready. So inside of here we have a steel ring, a rubber ring, and another steel ring. These are sliding on to the hammer section, this here tool holder section. And on top you have this plastic gear then, and to hold that on you have this little spring clip, little big spring clip, but it's not all that strong, it's only just holding that on. It's a loose fit because all this is going to be holding it in anyway. So the rubber ring and there's two steel rings allows us to rotate, and this here plastic gear is meshing with the metal one over here. So this all has to be in first before you install this thing, and you have to have your hammer pipe, your tool holder installed as well before you slide this on, because you can't get to that ring once it's in there. And once that's on, you can just throw these here ones in as well. Bit of grease. You got a big steel ring with a chamfer on it. That goes over your striker bolt. You got a big rubber bump. Goes at the very bottom. That gets sandwiched in between. And this here goes on then. The actual shoulder end sticks up and the flat end is against that rubber bump. Just stick that on too. And we also have this here and a spring too, but we can put that on before we put these two halves together. Now one other thing before I forget, and I normally do forget, is this here gasket. I've already slid this in. That's what always confuses me. It always catches me out. That gasket has to be on first, because this little end on it sits in here. And that has to be in before this lever is installed. I always remember there's something that has to be done first, and I always forget that. Push that down and then slide this on. Has to be on like that. A very minor thing. It just means you can't install this without that in place. And it's nothing more annoying whenever you've got the whole hammer rebuilt and everything together and bolted together on top of the motor, and realising you have to take this all apart again just to slide that out. So make sure you remember that, because I still forgot it this time. I'll get the hammer wet in there now. A bit more grease. Now we should be able to put on the actual tool holder end. Just remember to put these on too. And these two final pieces, you can stick them on the end here, but you have to balance them there. It's easier to just drop them on here. Little plastic ring and the gear as well, they drop down on top of that striker bolt assembly. And after that, you should be ready to go. To marry them up, slide them over each other and give them a wee twist. It should slide together. And a bit of Loctite on the bolts then, just to keep them in place. Right. Get back to this side. Get back to the heavy grease as well. into this needle bearing. Just get the clutch covered as well. Not essential, just find it a wee bit better for this. Just drops on. Just don't forget at the bottom of this here crank assembly, you have a washer. That's actually just sitting on there. Just stick that on first. You can use the Makita grease for this if you want. I'm just going to use the Healthy. It's the same sort of consistency. It just works out cheaper for me in the long run. And the grease will actually migrate around the machine once she's running. Just want to make sure some's on here to start off with. Another good gob of grease up on here. And then we'll pull out some of these other parts. Don't fall over on me. So I also ordered on this little wiring loom just to make installing that handle a bit better. This was the missing piece. Just a little spring. I need that. I have to check the price of that as well. This is why she wasn't getting into rotary mode. This lever was gone. So we need that. We need the spring for that. It's like 50 cents. These parts aren't expensive. Pin as well on top of that. That's only like 170. That's what we need. This little cradle costs around £5. This was missing completely, so we need that. What else? I think that's it. So we need this and the little spring. That's sitting on there, and that's what's actually selecting this. So that slides on there. Then you've got a little metal pin then that just pushes through. Just clicks onto that spring and connects the two together. And then your top lever then, this pin goes onto here to actually move this cradle back and forth. So that's the bit somebody actually took it out whenever they actually opened the machine. I'm just going to put another touch of grease in there. They do take quite a bit. Pull that round. Sure we're right. So like I said, it was polishing it. Luckily I didn't polish away the actual diagram. Just want to see now if we're on the right selector. So down here is hammer drill, up here is hammer only, and down this side should be hammer only. But the tool holder should be free to rotate. And then if I go up here, it should be locked. That's it. And back over that side then should be hammer drill. That should be right. For these again, a little bit of Loctite just to keep this cover on. Don't want it coming loose and losing all the grease, because as we can see there's a good bit on there. I seem to be missing one, so we'll see if we can get another one. Second hand, that'll do the job. Or is it second hand? Actually looks better than the one I had. That's got on there. And the other thing is the switch. That will be bolting onto here. Right. This on first. 3 screws to hold this. Springs will be going on there. That's going on here, bolting on. Before we put that on, we need this on, because that engages this switch. Just got a wee spring there, and then you got this little slider. They slide them together, and it has a top and a bottom. I think it's that way. This round first. Pretty sure it slides on there. Yeah. Then we also have this. Back to hammer mode. Just want to make sure I'm doing this right. Yeah. So whenever we go forward, then it just goes forward, and the spring catches the switch for the lever for the switch. Pulls this in. So that's her. Just make sure I'm right. The other thing is just a controller down on here. Then there's the tool holder assembly, your handle, your cover, your top plate. Yeah, I think that's us. We'll chance that. I'm also just going to change this lead because it's all mangled in this end. He's just got a bodge job where he's put it onto here, so we'll change the lead as well. The plug and all is okay. There's not much point in spending 100 or 150 euro servicing something and leaving it looking mess. Right, new lead. It all just slides on. And we have 3 small screws left. 2 is for this controller and 1 is for the selector on top. That on there, and then reconnect your switch. Slide that on. Now, get the handle ready. Replace this here lead. Just so we can go onto the connector again. So they're using 2 spade connectors. They cost a couple of euro. It's nothing fancy, it's just a connector. That's just a wee cradle for the switch. It's literally just 2 leads going onto the switch, that's it. It's just making the connection to say the switch is turned on. Now I can just push it through, it's alright. Thought I had to wire it through from the other side. Push that on. Runs down either side. Clicks on there and there. And that's it. No big deal. It just stops you having to use these 2 wee connectors here. Just leaves it neater, more professional looking. Slide that on a little bit. Right, I'll put the handle on now, chance this. So that has to slide all the way through here. Just connect it on first. Make sure these 2 springs are engaged as well. That's that. This is spring loaded on them springs, that's why it's not come back. And then here you have a plastic cover. Just sits on. And these 2 come together. It's a very big and cumbersome machine for putting these covers on. Same on this side. And now I'm hoping this just drops on. Bet it doesn't. Way around. Yeah, take it back a little. Just allow that to squeeze on now. Put on the selector lever, the last small screw. And help hook these together to finish off the look. Let's hook on this band. Oh, look at that, that dropped out as well. And there's such a pain. They all hold this here bottom plate on. Everything just has to be hooked on right. And lastly, this band just covers up the joint. Hook that the whole way around. Finishes it off nicely. Now just another couple of screws missing here. See if I can get something for them. 3 more second-hand screws. Finish this thing off. Now, I always like when we get to this end, you know you're nearly done. Just get a bit of grease up in the tool holder here. And steel washer, 2 of these, both of them are the same. Spring between, another washer, and your stops then for your tool holder just sit in. And you've got this boy, but that sits inside of there. So you've got this plastic sleeve first, and then this. Make sure that's all together. And a rubber bump, plastic sleeve, and a steel ring. And then the heavy C-clip to hold it on. Actually embeds itself on there. It's in good and tight and it's hard to get out. But you know it's not going to come loose. Now I take it. That's why I ordered the cap. Can't even remember now. Assuming it didn't come with one. Finish it off with this. And that is her one big Makita HR5212C with a common problem repaired. The actual crank pin broke off, replaced the crank, fixed the machine, and also just done new O-rings and seal and brushes as well to keep the motor running right and keep it hammering right. So that should be this big girl up and running again. Now let's see what it sounds like. For an auction machine, I think this man's got off fairly well. The most important bit then is the actual hammer mechanism mode, hammer only mode. So whenever all the other modes, you're starting on the trigger. But when you go into hammer only, that's what this big lever is for, and we connector up on here. That pushes forward and engages the switch automatically, so it's only working on the start button. So it works like a lot more like a breaker. You don't have to hold that trigger in all the time. You only need the trigger when you're on the rotary mode or something. Right, that's her. Now to make sure she's actually hammering. She's hammering and she's kicking. So that is good to go. She's doing exactly what you want again. She's hammering, and she's hammering under her own weight, and she's also lifting herself up with the force of the hammer, so she's working perfectly. That's her, folks. That's how you strip and repair a Makita HR5212C Rotary hammer. A big machine. Not the cheapest hammer in the world to fix. You'd be talking up to €200 to actually fix up something like this here. I'll have to get an exact price later on after I add up all the parts. But even €200 is well worth it to that. Even if the motor was gone and you had to replace that as well, and it was a €400 repair, it's technically still worth it, because to buy these things is over €1,200. They're not a cheap machine to buy, so fixing them is a very, very good option. But anyway, that's how you do it. That's how you fix them up if you ever break the crank up inside of here. Not the easiest job in the world, but because everything's so big, it is actually a little bit easier to do. Not impossible, but you can actually do it if you ever cracks or breaks that up in there. If it does break it, make sure you do actually wash the whole thing out as well, and just check to make sure it didn't break the actual aluminium housing, the head inside as well. But anyway, that's it, folks. Luckily this man's got away with this auction job. Honestly, if you're going to auctions, do be careful what you're buying, because we see them coming on all the time where they just keep going around in circles. They're not worth fixing. They just keep coming back into auctions. I've seen one fella come on who got a really good score of Makita hammers. They all had wee short flimsy leads on them and a plug. Whenever I took them on here, they were only just shoved onto the hole. They weren't even wired in, but literally half of them actually did just need a lead. Wired on properly, the proper lead. They were working fine. A few other ones needed a service, but they got off fairly well. There's a couple of things weren't worth fixing, but for the price he paid for the lot, it wasn't too bad. But normally when you get them coming on, they're not really worth fixing. This man's got out lightly. It's an expensive machine and it's an expensive fix, but he didn't pay too much for it. He's actually got a bit of a bargain, to be honest. There's 3 more Makita hammers out there for this man that also came from the same auction. I'm going to do them there in a separate video though. But till then, folks, when the parts come in, I'll chat to you later. As always, folks, if you're enjoying the videos, make sure to give us a wee like and a follow down below. And if you want to help out the channel, make sure to hit that subscribe button too. And if you want to, I see YouTube also have a new feature, a hype or something like that there, to actually help out up and coming creators up to 500,000 followers or something. Don't ask me what it is. Don't ask me where the button is. I just read that there's a new feature, hype. So if you can see the button and you know how to use it, give us a wee favour. Do us a wee favour. Hit that hype button as well, whatever it is. But till next time, folks, I'll chat to you later.